Brandon Miller has generated some attention again. I would say it's not a big deal what he's getting attention for. Granted, it is pretty funny to some degree because you would think as an NBA player that you would have good knowledge about, I would say 80% of the players in the league, at least at a minimum. You would just have a good idea of all the guys who are on every team's roster, at least the majority of them, and especially the best players on every team. You would know who they are. So there was a game Brandon Miller was playing in which he had to pick his starting five, and it would just show five different players, one for each position, and it would randomly just show them selected on his screen, and he would have to decide if he wanted to keep those players or do another random drawing. So he had a few of these random drawings, and then it came to a point where it showed Khris Middleton's face as one of the small forwards, and he said something like, I don't know who this guy is, but I guess I'll go forward with him at the small forward. And then at the end of the game, he saw Valanciunas as the center, and he didn't know who Valanciunas at center was either. So I would say that it is kind of strange that he wouldn't know who Khris Middleton is. I could actually give him a pass on Jonas Valanciunas. Valanciunas is a good player, but he's really not big time in the sense that you're going to know who he is unless you're kind of like a hardcore NBA fan. Granted, he is good, but I get it for most people are casual fans. But Khris Middleton is a guy you should know, especially if you're a really young guy coming into this league, if you're like 19, 20, because he won the championship a few years ago being the second best player on the Milwaukee Bucks. That if you were at least following the NBA Finals 2 years ago, you would know who Khris Middleton is. You should know who he is. Just to me, that's really odd. It's kind of like not knowing I'm trying to think of just a recent championship team. This would be like the equivalent of somebody 2 years from now saying that they don't know who Jamal Murray is. It just would be awkward and weird. But just to me, it just shows that maybe Brandon Miller is not really a hardcore fan of the NBA. Just he might care about his craft, but he's not obsessed with learning about his competition. So that's kind of a bad look because you wonder how serious he is about this when it comes to just competing and just knowing the people he's going up against. Because I feel to be great, you also have to be a student of the game. You need to know who your opponents are, who's going to challenge you. Just as a competitor, you would seek that out. So I guess as weird as it sounds, it makes me question his competitive spirit, just how badly he wants to compete simply because he didn't know one of the premier, I would say shooting guards or small forwards in the league in Khris Middleton. Granted, he had an off year, but still, he's one of the best. So just how can you not know him, especially when you'll probably match up with him this season when you play the Bucks? That to me was odd. Just, yeah, I would say Brandon Miller has a lot to prove. I've seen him in Summer League, even though he struggled. I do see flashes of what he could be potentially, but I just kind of wonder at times mentally if he's just right or if he's there, if he has the mental aspect of the game right and stuff like this still makes me question it. So he has a lot to prove, and we're just going to find out starting this season if he's really worth the time and process to develop as a player. I feel hopefully he'll show us some flashes. I actually want to see him do well, but like I said, just his zaniness is just something to talk about. Just this is the same guy who believed Paul George was a GOAT. Granted, I think he was joking. I hope so, but still, to have Paul George as your favorite player, just mind-boggling. That's all I have to say about him.